What you looking at? I'm looking at my bed. And why? Why are you looking at your bed? Seems a little strange. Well, because I feel like it's looking a little drab. It needs to be springified a little bit, I think. I don't know. It just feels very drab to me. So I think I need to make some changes, but I can't decide exactly what it is I want to change. Well, I think I have an idea. Why don't you change the pillows and maybe put a little bit brighter, more cheerful, colorful comforter on the bed? I think that would actually look pretty good. Hey, that's actually a really good idea. That's exactly what I'm going to do. I think we need to change the pillows and put a brighter, more cheerful, springy comforter on the bed. Hey, great idea. Thanks for the inspiration. My pleasure. I'm so glad that I could help. My darling friends, welcome back to my channel. It is so good to see you all. I'm so happy that you stopped by today. If you are new to my channel, welcome. It's nice to meet you. And if you are returning, welcome back. I'm so happy to see you. All right, my dear friends, today we are going to spend some time hanging out here in the studio, working on some fun spring sewing projects. As you can see, my bedroom needs a little spring touch. So we're going to work on some sewing, and I've got some fun different techniques we're going to try with our sewing projects today. So fingers crossed all of these work out. All right, y'all, let's go sew. Alrighty, y'all, we are just going to jump right into our first project. We are going to be making pillows today, as you all know. And this first one is going to be, I'm making 3 of these, and this is just going to be a very simple, straightforward pillow, and we are going to focus on how to sew a zipper in. It is so easy to sew zippers. So many people get intimidated by sewing zippers. I am one of them. I used to, but now I've done it so many times that I'm just used to it. I put zippers in all of my pillows. So the first thing we're going to do is cut your fabric to size, and I have cut mine here at 18 by 18, and of course you just do you customize this to fit your needs. So the first thing we are going to do is get our fabric prepared. So we're going to place right sides together. Now pay attention to your fabric here, because if you have a patterned fabric or a lettered fabric that has a specific up and down, top and bottom, you want to make sure that you get those pieced together correctly. So all we're going to do now is take this to our sewing machine, and we're going to sew in a zipper seam. So we will just be sewing across the bottom of our pillow, because you want your zipper to be at the bottom. So here we are at the sewing machine, and we are going to just place our fabric into the sewing machine, and I am actually sewing this with a 1-inch inseam here, so that when you open it up, it's actually 2 inches, because I like to have lots of room for my zipper, and it probably is a little overkill, but it's just, I like to have that really nice, big, wide zipper seam. One thing to keep in mind here as you're sewing this is when you're doing a zipper seam, especially this method, you want to sew this stitch with a basting stitch so that we can easily open our zipper, open this seam later to reveal our zipper. Now that we have our zipper seam sewn into place, we can go ahead and open up our fabric, Flip that seam right side up so it's facing you, and then we're going to go ahead and finger press this down. But then I'm also going to take it to the iron because it is very, very important that you have a nice flat seam here for sewing in your zipper. This step's important. You definitely do not want any wrinkles, and you want that seam to be really well pressed open. Once you have everything pressed open, we can start preparing this for our zipper. We'll go ahead and get our zipper pinned into place. When you are pinning your zipper into place, the most important thing to remember is that you have the right side of your zipper facing down. You want that to be facing into the seam so that when we open up this seam, our zipper is properly revealed. It is important also to pin your zipper down. I'm not a big pinner. I don't pin. I pin very few of my sewing projects, but when it comes to zippers, I definitely want to make sure I am pinning this because you don't want that zipper to move at all while you're sewing it in. The other little trick here is that while you're pinning it into place, I go a little ways down. You can kind of see what I'm doing here, and then I pin it because I'm making sure that my teeth, the teeth of the zipper, are perfectly lined up with the center of that seam. Once we have our zipper completely pinned into place, we can take it to the sewing machine and start sewing the zipper in. And if your zipper is a little bit longer than your project, that is not a problem at all because you can actually cut these. The most important part to remember with that though is you want to cut it at the bottom of the zipper. You want to cut it where the zipper stop is, not where the zipper pull is. Okay, so here we are at the sewing machine, and I am using a zipper foot. This is also really important. If this is your first time sewing a zipper in and you're not sure what a zipper foot is, it should be labeled with the letter I on the foot, and that is what a zipper foot is. It's really helpful to use this because the little skinny peg at the bottom, or the foot, it helps guide you with your zipper. So I like to line mine up so that the zipper peg is running down off to the side of my zipper. I really hope this makes sense. I hope you can kind of see what I'm doing here. It was really hard for me to zoom this in super close. I did try, but hopefully you can see how I am doing this. And then I just start sewing down, and you want to sew this with a really tight stitch. So I sewed mine with a number 2 stitch, 2 length stitch, because you really want this zipper to be very well secured and very well held into place. When we come to the end of our zipper where our seam is going to be, this is where we're going to make our own zipper stop, especially if you have to cut your zipper, because my stop is getting cut off. Obviously, my zipper's longer than this fabric. So to create my own zipper stop, I am literally just going to turn my fabric here, and then I'm going to go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth multiple times to create a really nice, strong, sturdy stitch. And this will become our zipper stop at the bottom of our fabric. Okay, so after we get our zipper stop sewn into place, we're going to turn our fabric and start sewing up the other side. Remember, as you're doing this, to just keep your zipper foot in line properly with your zipper. So the edge of that zipper foot should be running along the actual zipper itself, and the little peg at the end, I'm not sure what that's called, should be running down our stitch line. And that will it's like butted right up against the zipper, which helps keep it get a nice good straight stitch. Okay, so now we are approaching the top, and obviously we can't sew over that pull, so we're going to stop just short of that zipper pull, do a good back stitch to secure that into place, and then flip our fabric one more time, open that zipper just a little bit, as much as you can in that seam, and then we can go ahead and secure the top part of our zipper into place. This is my absolute favorite part of sewing in zippers, and that is opening our zipper seam that we created with that basting stitch. And if you used a basting stitch, this is going to open super easy. So we're just going to take a seam ripper, and it is really a good idea to use a seam ripper with a little bead, and the bead goes on the inside, and just like that we run it down that seam, and we've now opened it up to expose our zipper. And something else I really like to do here is, first of all, get all those little strings out of the way so that they don't get caught in our zipper. And then I do like to open my zipper, open and close it just a few times to make sure that everything is working correctly. After testing our zipper a couple of times, we can now go ahead and cut off that excess zipper. And I'm just going to go ahead and cut that right across my raw edge. Okay, y'all, so now it is time to actually close up our pillow. So we're just going to, again, make sure that right sides are together, and this step is very important. Make sure that your zipper is opened at least halfway so that once we close this pillow up, we can easily flip right sides out. If you forget to do that step, you're probably going to have some issues on your hand because it will be almost impossible to open up that zipper to enable you to flip it right side out. So we're going to go ahead and start lining up all of our seams, and then we're going to take it back to the sewing machine and close up our remaining 3 sides. Okay, y'all, so now that we have our pillow completely closed up, I'm going to come in with some pinking shears and just clean up the edges a little bit. I like to do this step because, number one, it eliminates bulk so that when we go to turn this right side out, we get nice, clean seams and clean edges. The other benefit of doing this is it prevents fraying. So like over time, after you've washed your pillow cover a few times, you don't get any fraying, and it's going to protect your stitches and keep them really well locked into place. Just remember that as you're doing this, don't cut into any of your stitches. Okay, y'all, so now we get to do the big reveal. We're going to turn our pillow cover right sides out, and I like to use my finger to just kind of poke out all the corners, but if you're having a corner that's giving you some troubles and you're having a hard time, you can use like the end of a crochet hook or an end of the spoon or something. Just don't use anything sharp because you don't want to poke through your fabric. All right, y'all. I'm so excited. We have a really cute pillow cover here. It was so easy to do. I thought this was a very straightforward, easy project, and I actually whipped this up in about 20 minutes per pillow. And I am making 3 of these, so I mean, it was a little time consuming, but per pillow, it was about 20 to 25 minutes. So now we can go ahead and put our insert in and enjoy our finished project. 4-hour second pillow here. We're going to have a little bit of fun. This is a little bit harder to do, but it's not impossible. It might be a little challenging, but it's still doable. It's approachable. I know y'all can do this. We are going to put some edge banding on this pillow. These are Euro size pillows, so I cut these at 26 by 26 because we do want a 1-inch seam allowance all the way around to make room for our binding. And then because we're also going to put a zipper into this, we need an extra strip to sew to the bottom of our pillow to create our zipper seam. And I go ahead and cut my main panel at the size, and then I cut my strip here 26 inches long by 6 inches wide or 6 inches tall. This is going to give us that extra fabric that we need to install our zipper seam. And then at the end, we can come back in and cut the excess fabric off to bring it back to our square shape. And we'll get to that in just a few minutes. So now another thing to think about, if you have a patterned fabric like I do here and you want your pattern to be lined up, think about that before you make your cut on the strip. This piece of fabric did have like a defined top and a bottom. I wasn't super precise in lining up my pattern here. I did my best, but because it is the back of the pillow, it doesn't really matter. Like could have been a little more precise, but I still feel like it's okay this way. It's the back of the pillow. You're not really going to see it. Okay, so once you've done all of that step, then we are ready to take this to the sewing machine and sew our zipper seam exactly like we did our previous pillow. So now we have our seam all sewn in to get into place, and we're going to go ahead and press that seam down just like we did with the last project. Now we can go ahead and pin our zipper into place here, and we're going to do this also exactly like our last project. Once we have our zipper pinned into place, let's take it to the sewing machine and sew our zipper into place. And once our zipper's been sewn into place, we're going to just go ahead and do the same thing we did before and open up that seam with our seam ripper to reveal the zipper. Like I do with every single project, I'm going to go ahead and test our zipper a few times, open and close it, get all those little tiny strings out of the way, open and close that zipper a few times just to make sure that it is working properly. Okay, so now we are ready to go ahead and cut. We have a nice beautiful zipper into place. So we're going to go ahead and cut this back to length. So because we sewed that little strip onto the bottom, we no longer have a 27 by 27 inch pillow. So I'm going to go ahead and take this to my cutting mat and cut the top of this off. I'm not going to cut from the bottom because we need that fabric on the bottom for our edge banding because we want a nice good seam there. Lots of space, lots of room to create that edge banding and a nice seam because we're going to need a 1-inch seam allowance there. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut that excess off the top of my fabric. The amount of fabric that you are going to cut from the excess that you have here is going to depend on what size pillow you are creating. In this instance, I am creating a Euro size pillow, which is 26 by 26. So I just needed to cut an additional 3 inches off the top of that. Now this step could actually be eliminated if you were really good at math. Then you would know precisely how wide to cut that strip at the bottom for your zipper seam, but I suck at math, so this was just the easiest way for me to do this. Okay, let's go ahead and set that piece aside for a minute, and we're going to go ahead and get our top panel prepared. I'm going to go ahead and press this, get all the wrinkles out of it, and then we can go ahead and move on to our next step. Okay, so we've pressed our top panel, and now we can go ahead and start preparing our edge banding and our cording. This particular size pillow did take 2.75 yards of edge banding and the equal amounts cording. I will have the edge banding that I used for this, the sizes and everything, linked in the description box for y'all. I do like the double fold. I think it is so much easier to work with. So to get started, I'm going to lay the edge banding down on one edge of my fabric, and I'm going to measure the top the same width as my filler cord, because when we finish this off, we're going to want a nice, clean, rounded corner there. So you want to bring that filler cord down just a little bit. Then we can go ahead, take this to the sewing machine, and see here's where I've brought it down just a little bit, because when we finish off that edge, you won't have a big bulky corner there. So I bring down my cording just a little bit, and now I'm going to go ahead and start sewing this into place. And you are going to sew this to the top panel, right sides together. You want to sew this so the right side of your fabric. You may feel like you want to sew this to the wrong side, but don't do that, because then it won't flip correctly and you'll just have a big mess on your hand. I'm also using my zipper foot to sew this cording into place, because you want to get this sewn as close to that cording as you possibly can. You want a very tight, close stitch against that cording. This is what's going to give you a clean, beautiful finish on your project. So using a zipper foot to do this is a really good idea. Now, another thing I want to mention here, y'all know I don't really care for pinning. I pin very little of my projects. However, if you are new to sewing edge banding on, I do recommend that you pin this whole thing before you start sewing. I've done this enough times that I'm comfortable sewing it on without pinning. But if you're new to this, go ahead and pin it, because it really will make this just a little bit easier for you. So in my case, I kind of just sew and then align the banding and then sew and align the edge banding. Now, as we come to the corner, y'all, you're going to want to cut some little slits into your binding here. And this is going to be what helps move it smoothly around the corner. It's going to give you that nice, beautiful, clean corner without a whole bunch of bulk. Okay, so as we come to the end of our very first row here, our very first edge, we're going to go ahead and flip our fabric. And this does get a little bit fiddly here because we're going around a corner and we want a nice corner on this. This isn't going to give you a perfect like square corner. It does round, and it's kind of a natural thing with this cording. It naturally rounds when you do this. So that's why we make the little slits, is because it helps eliminate bulk on that corner. So just take that part really slow. I always go around those corners nice and slow. And then as we come around the corner, we just complete that next edge, and we repeat that same process when we come to each of our corners. Okay, y'all, we have successfully sewn some banding onto the front piece of our pillow panel, and I'm so excited about this. I love this. I just think that working with bias tape and cording, it just gives such a beautiful finish to the pillow. All right, so now we can go ahead and sew our back panel to the front panel, and make sure that you open up that zipper at least 2/3 of the way, so that as we close our pillow up, you have an opening to flip this right sides out. If you forget to open that zipper, it's really, really hard to get it open once all of our sides have been sewn together. Okay, so we're just going to match up that top panel to the back panel to our front panel, and we're going to take this back to the sewing machine. And again, we are going to sew this very, very close to that binding. And I use my zipper foot to do this again because it really helps just get a very close stitch to that binding. And this is going to give us a nice clean edge, and it's also going to ensure that we get all of our pieces sewn properly together so that we don't have any gaps or holes. Again, if you are new to sewing and this is a new experience for you, I do recommend pinning these pieces together. I just really hate pinning. I'm not sure what it is about me and pinning, but I get a little bit rebellious when it comes to that. So I just do my best to keep all of my edges lined up correctly as I sew. But pinning does help keep everything nice and straight. Okay, so now that we have our entire pillow closed up, we've got our front sewn to our back, we're going to go ahead and again clean up all of those edges with our pinking shears. This is just going to eliminate a bunch of extra bulk so that when we flip this right side out, we get nice smooth edges on our all of our seams. And it also helps prevent fraying as you wash this, and it just starts to get used more and more. This prevents fraying and protects all of our stitching. Now again, as you're cutting this with your pinking shears, be very careful not to cut into any of your stitching. Okay, y'all, so we've done it. We've got everything ready. Let's go ahead and flip this thing right sides out, smooth down all of our edges. This is exciting to me. I love this moment. It's like the moment of truth where you just flip the whole thing and you just feel so proud of what you've created here. I love this. I do feel proud, and I know that you will too. It's a good feeling to know that you created this with your own two hands. And now that I have got all of these pillows sewn together, I'm really looking forward to going and styling these on my bed. I think it's going to feel so nice to have a refreshing palette for the spring season.
Really good. I love it. I love how it just made the room look so much brighter and cheerier. It definitely feels like spring in here. Good job. You're right. It really does brighten up this space so much. I love how well it turned out too. And these pillows were so much fun to make. Some of them were a little bit challenging, but we got through it, and I love the end results. Definitely feels more cheery and more like spring in here. Alrighty, y'all. Well, what do you think? I am loving this transformation. This is a good one. It definitely has that fun, fresh spring feel. It makes me feel cheery, I think, almost. It kind of has a little bit of a beachy vibe, but it also reminds me of like being in a spring meadow full of flowers. So I would say that all in all, I am loving the end results. Y'all have to let me know what you think. Share your ideas with me. I would love to know your thoughts on this spring transformation to our bedroom. Alrighty friends, well, I guess that is it for today. Thank you all so much for being here and for joining me today as we worked on this fun spring sewing project. I hope y'all will come back and see me again next week. We've got some really fun Easter projects coming up. So y'all come back and see me again. Until then, take care, and I will see you soon. Bye!